And this is such a weird minor quality of life thing, but it was a thing that when we lost it, it's like, oh God, I didn't realize how much I needed that. When we were using Comic Suite and RMH, all of your data, what you've ordered, what you got in, what you sold, it was all in one place because you were basically replacing orders within your system that went directly to Diamond. The problem now is that Shopify does not know what orders we've placed. So anytime we want to look at our data, unless you've actually physically received it, it doesn't exist as far as Shopify is concerned.
In the Midwest, you know the best is there waiting, so come and join the conversation. Heister approved, fan and artist and creator too. This is how the challengers do. What? Keep the conversation moving along. Keep reading comics, keep your local store strong. If it's hard, then it's a job for the challengers. What? Comics and conversation, y'all.
From Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, this is Contest of Challengers,
the lowest of all entertainment.
a comics industry business podcast with
The scummiest of the scum, the lowest of the low, the stinkiest of the stinky. Patrick Brower. Brower the Sour, they call him.
and
W. Dal Bush. It's so bad. It's such a hideous name, Dal.
Okay, while we're still setting up, I'm going to have you hold this, but face down how it is right there.
Okay.
As I'm getting my pencil. This was unplanned, but since it came in today's mail, we can do an audio unboxing.
That's the best kind.
We're not unboxing audio, but we are, however, opening a package that just came, and I didn't realize what it was at first, but once I saw where it was from, I know what it is. And I also opened it enough to cut everything so you can just take it all apart.
Okay.
But I have not physically looked at the contents.
Okay.
So if you'd like to go ahead and
Oh, okay.
open.
There's a note inside. Should I read this?
Sure.
Hey, Pat and Dal. Thank you again for commissioning me and for your patience. Let me know when this arrives. Signed, Becca. A little drawing on the back.
What's the drawing of? Paint a picture with your words.
It says thank you with flowers, and there's a little tiny person coming out of flowers, like they're like a little tiny person.
Nice. That's adorable.
It is. Ugh. Wow. In it, there are two pieces of artwork that people who shop at our store have bought something recently online might recognize as the artwork for one of our new bookmarks, specifically the one by comic artist and educator Becca Hilburn. It's the two pieces are a bunch of little people, tiny people, reading gigantic regular-sized books and having an adventure with them. And then the other one is Patrick and myself as equally tiny little people with fun clothes and designs for them.
Accessories.
Yeah.
Full-size accessories for tiny people.
Yeah. Like Patrick's got like a Captain America watch, but as like a gigantic fist-size...
Vestment.
Yeah, pocket watch sort of situation. I have a giant X-Aid, Kamen Rider X-Aid mascot keychain. This is cute. This is very good.
These are amazing. And
really
look at how the
painted.
final size
Good
is
Lord.
2 inches by 6 inches, and look how big those are.
They're so big.
There's honestly, I felt
These
a little
are
bit
great.
bad because there's more to the full image of the little people in the books than fit on the bookmark. The dimensions were off by just a little bit, so I had to lose some stuff off the top because I needed to get... Can you tilt it a little toward me, please?
Sure.
Thanks. I needed to get the character at the bottom with the pencil, and I didn't want to cut that off. I wanted that to all be seen, so we lost
Sure.
everything on the top.
Oh, okay. The little card captor Sakura.
Yeah. And then I had added art by Becca Hilburn as the title of one of the books on the spine.
Good choice.
Yeah, these are great.
These
and
are great.
it's amazing that, Becca, thank you so much for sending us the
Yeah,
originals.
very thoughtful.
And I acknowledge your note says, let me know when this arrives, and I'm going to let this podcast be the...
This is the
letting
arrival
you know.
notification.
But also, it's rare that people that do bookmarks for us nowadays do it physically.
Yeah, that there's actual physical artwork.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So these
it's
are going to get
amazing.
framed and going to get hung up in the
They're
store.
beautiful.
Right? Look at that. Adorable.
So good.
And I knew that we'd be getting them at some point, but I didn't know when. And when I saw that package this morning, I was on the way out, so I just tossed it aside. And it wasn't until I got home that I saw the Natto Soup return label. I'm like, oh, I know exactly what's in here.
You know what that is.
So I thought I would save it for you to do the unboxing.
Aw, thanks.
Look at that Captain America tattoo that she
Very
fully painted.
detailed. My goodness.
Yeah, it's amazing.
What a pro.
I did send her photos of the left arm for the tattoos. Once we had the basic layout down, I'm like, oh, you need just this arm, so that's
Sure.
fine. Yeah, these came out great. Thank you so much, Becca. This
Thanks,
is
Becca.
amazing. And thanks for being a patron all these years as well.
Aw, how sweet.
It was interesting because, I guess it's serendipitous, because when I reached out to her to do the bookmarks, she had just been talking to Joseph Coco saying, I'd like to do some work for them.
Oh, goodness.
And along those lines, artist and a friend of Challengers, Leanna Kangas, had posted a things I want to do in 2024 list.
Okay.
And one of them is design a t-shirt for a comic shop.
Ooh.
And Don Cardenas, who we'll be talking about later in this episode,
Okay.
had said Challengers. And she's like, I'd love to. But we already have our designer for the 2024 I Love You Would Have Chosen Comics t-shirt.
So I'm told.
Yeah. I mean, I was told too. We just need to make sure that and they were also given the spec email, but I got to follow up and be like, hey, no rush. You have plenty of time. Just acknowledge you got this. That's all I want. That's all I want.
It's not too much
Well,
to ask.
I also want a full illustration as well.
Yeah, that'd be nice in the end.
As well. So we're going to talk about FOCs for a minute.
Okay.
And by a minute, I mean a lot longer than that, because we have like 60 to fill.
Oh, gosh.
Well, 55, yes. But
Okay.
so we're going to do a quick little recap of the 3 different ways we as a store place orders. There's 3 different types of orders we can place. And we'll go into the terminologies to make sure. I assume most people listening know these terms. We use them all the time, but
Just in case.
we'll give them the full rundown on them. They are initial orders, FOCs, and reorders. Initial orders are when a company, a publisher, says, "Hey, this order is coming out. Or this product is coming out. You can order it. You know, you have until this date to order it to place your initial orders." Meaning that is the first order you place, saying, "I want 25 copies of this Firestorm graphic novel," which of course we'd order way more because it's Firestorm and you love him.
Depends on who does it.
That's fair. So initially we would say we want 25 copies of this Firestorm graphic novel. Now, initial orders have 2 different ways that they are done. They are either done where there's a run-up in a catalog with lead time, where they put out a catalog or put out a solicitation and, you know, give you a month to digest it, to send it to your customers to see what they think, to see how many people pre-order it from you and say, hey, give me that Firestorm graphic novel.
Right.
And then you place an order. Or they do what's called new to order, which is a listing every weekday we get from Diamond of brand new product that they've just been made aware of, that they're taking orders for, that haven't been in a solicitation catalog at any point.
Right. Mostly toys, and that's kind of where new to order started from, was Diamond for a long time basically just did a monthly catalog. You would get a catalog in June for stuff that was coming out in August, and that was how everything worked. But a lot of toy manufacturers would make announcements at the last minute and then need orders really soon, or list stuff 7-8 months in advance. And that was kind of outside how Diamond did things. But because a lot of comic shops were carrying toys through Diamond, they were finding themselves in a disadvantageous position against more dedicated toy stores that had other vendors, because those stores would have info, photos, solicits, prices the day they were announced and start taking orders, and stores were complaining to Diamond, hey, I'm losing pre-orders to other locations because I don't have that data from you, my toy vendor. I need you to get that up and running so I can retain those orders from my customers.
Yeah,
so,
you personally know how excitable toy hobbyists can be when they want to lock in the fact that they're getting
very
the
much
thing.
so.
Yeah.
2 new SH Figuarts Kamen Rider Geats figures were announced today, Zen, and Kamen Rider Geats Mark II, Boost Mark II / Laser Boost.
Is Geats
Very exciting.
the little robot that flies around the main Kamen Rider and tells him what he's doing wrong?
Incorrect. You're thinking of Skeets from Blue Beetle's good friend Booster Gold.
But Skeets is a Kamen Rider?
No.
Oh.
I mean, they do
I'm never going to understand this Kamen Rider
You're
stuff.
probably thinking of Urisen from Kamen Rider Ghost, who is a tiny ghost that floats around and gives advice to Kamen Rider Ghost, and is also kind of like a snarky pain in the ass.
Wait, that's a real thing?
Yes.
Why is Ghost not your favorite Kamen Rider?
A lot of problems with the storytelling. They kind of have 2 first acts. It's really weird.
But there's a snarky ghost.
Yeah, I don't like Urisen. Urisen's
Also,
kind
I
of a
didn't,
pain
I
in the
didn't think
ass.
Kamen Rider was ever anything supernatural. I thought it was just technologically based.
Oh, it's all over the place. When Kamen Rider Kuga came out in the early 2000s, basically,
What's that? What? Oh, I'm getting word from the booth.
More supernatural stuff is when that kind of happened. More spiritual.
We need to move on.
Okay, great.
I just
Pre-orders
now,
open tomorrow in Japan for those 2 Geats figures, so I'm very excited to find
just
that out.
now decided that
I didn't think they
we
knew his
have-
in at this point. He's not really on the show.
we have engineers in a booth who are handling all the levels for this.
And Geats
and
Boost Mark II laser
keeping
boost.
us
He doesn't use that
on
form
track.
anymore. He's
So
using Boost 9.
Whenever I put my fingers to my ear, like I'm getting a message from the booth, that is when we will abruptly change what we're talking about.
Sure, let's get back on track. So it's nice that you said that there are 3 main ways that we do orders, and then you brought up the 4th one, new to order.
No. I said new to order is part of initial.
Sort of.
Because a new to order is initial order.
I mean, we could go into a little detail about how new to order kind of supersedes and at times replace. Yeah, I guess supersedes. I guess we'll stick with supersedes initial order, because there are times where if you're ordering stuff in the catalog initial order that has already been listed on new to order, you might be too late to get it now.
Yeah, fair.
Like, that's a complaint we've had before, because you'll see something in the catalog and go, oh, great. But now it's like, well, no, because that window kind of already closed. So you'll get more from Diamond if Diamond has more to give you. But they're prioritizing the people who did new to order.
So for the retailer, it'll always say, this item has been listed on new to order.
Yeah, which is almost the entire back of the catalog.
For the
now.
consumer, I don't think it does that.
No, in the catalog they do say that. Like
Okay.
the print catalog, it'll say, previously available new to order.
Okay.
I don't know.
But I consider new to order part of initial orders because it's
I'd
the
agree
first
with
time
that.
you're placing an order for it.
It's a kind of initial order, that's
Yeah.
for sure.
FOCs, or final order cutoff, is a tool that we can use for some specific publishers. And let me go back.
The history...
Let me.
Let's take it back a bit.
How did Dave always say it?
I can't remember.
And before that, let me start again. So there's a point where orders close for initial orders, but then they give you a date where you could adjust orders up.
Or down.
Well, I'm not doing FOCs yet.
Oh, okay. Order increase cutoff?
Order increase cutoff is still part of initial orders, where if time has passed and they haven't gone to press, you can say, I want more of this.
And I mean, some of that is very specific to, like, with Diamond, and we're talking about just Diamond for a second, they have different kinds of publishers they have deals with. They have premier publishers. They have, I can never remember what the second one is, like deluxe publishers or something. And then they've kind of got everybody else. And premier publishers, they offer final order cutoff as a way that you can move your numbers up or down after initial order, but before the order is actually closed from the publisher. For like the back of the catalog people they don't have a deal with that are not part of the FOC program, they only have order increase cutoff. Like a window where after the initial order is closed, you can still raise your numbers, but you can't lower them. You can only add on some more. It's a very weird thing where different publishers have different rules from Diamond.
Yeah, so along with initial orders, there's the new to order and the order increases. But final order cutoffs, like Dal just said, is the last chance we have to be able to say, oh, we've ordered too little, or we think we've ordered too many, let's cut this.
Yeah.
You can adjust your orders up or down. So for the publishers that use FOC, your initial orders are just a guide for you that you placed.
Yes.
But we'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, so to talk a little bit about final order cutoff, it started in the early 2000s because basically I think it had been part of a complaint from retailers that it was harder for them to order stuff because the market needed them to be more flexible, and instead of placing orders 2 and 3 months out, But the bigger problem was the books were getting delayed, and the orders you placed 5 or 6 months ago now no longer reflected what you actually needed for your store. And on top of that, publishers, I think Marvel specifically, was making changes to creative teams and
The content.
and content after you'd placed your orders. So if you ordered 60 copies of something because it had an A-list creative team, and then it turns out that no, that A-list creative team got replaced by 2 people that won't sell in your store, well, now you have way too many copies, but you already ordered it. You can't do anything about it. But that kind of went against the terms of sale that Marvel had laid out that made retailers adhere to. So there were class action lawsuits, and the end result was basically the introduction of the final order cutoff system. Now, there's people who are more involved in this process 20 years ago that will probably give a lot more detail on that, but that's just kind of the overview of final order cutoff. Was the compromise situation of like, stores get to change their orders, but publishers can make any changes they want right up until FOC.
Yeah.
And then at that point, whatever you order is what you're getting.
Or they could drop 5 new covers.
Yeah, they could add or drop series. They could make sweeping changes to whatever they previously advertised. They could change covers. They could change creators. They could change content. They could change page count. They could change price. As long as they do it before FOC, they have that flexibility. And the trade-off is we also have the flexibility of saying, I don't want that anymore, or I want way more of that now.
Yeah.
So it's been a weird situation over the last 20 years where initial orders and FOCs were originally a very like equitable system where it felt like everyone was kind of doing their best and there were compromises inherent within it. But now everything's tilted way more towards, we will tell you about 48 hours before we ask you to close your sales. And sometimes not even that.
For the most part, the FOC system saw orders go up more than down.
Sure.
And honestly, from a challenger standpoint, we would use FOCs to get more. Occasionally we would go down, but for the most part it was a book that we had more interest in, we felt we underordered, and we had the chance to get more. So it wasn't just a safety
also,
net for retailers. It was beneficial to publishers as well.
Yeah, and I mean, what we have seen for a long time is that a lot of the reader interest, the additions to people's subscription lists, happens the closer you get to the book coming out. So when initial orders are happening in that whole cycle, we're getting some interest. But it's like the book isn't really real for people until like a month later, and that's why right before FOC, we get a lot of extra orders.
Yeah.
So without the final order cutoff, we'd kind of be ordering a little blind.
Yeah. And then the third and final way orders are placed, and it's honestly the majority of what we do, it's reorders. And that means once a product is already out and you order more of it. Mm-hmm. And that's the way we order, supplies are reorders. And any type of boxes, bags, and boards, that's considered a reorder.
Yeah, if we sell out of Watchmen and we need to get it back in, that's a reorder.
That's a reorder. Almost 90% of our graphic novel orders each week are reorders.
Yeah, very few books sell the majority of their year-long sales in the first week or two. Like, it's... Hopefully we're selling that continuously. Like, we've probably sold way more copies of, again, Watchmen, than Watchmen's not a good choice. We weren't open when that came out. House of X Powers of 10 softcover, we sell, almost every week.
6 Gun Volume 1.
Yeah, on and on like that. Reckless Volume 1 hardcover. We sold a ton of that. The first order we got in was 40-something copies. But we sell that continuously. We've probably sold at least another 40 since then.
And the posters that we carry that are bagged on cardboard, those are reorders. Mm-hmm. All the buttons and the enamel pins, those are reorders.
Yes.
Any ancillary product. Admittedly, sometimes there's new designs, but it's still placed as a reorder. They didn't say, oh, this button's coming out, how many do you want?
Yeah, we don't pre-order those at all.
Yeah, we order them once it exists. Mm-hmm. Specifically, the way Challengers does the ordering at the store, because we're a 2 or more person system, we would take advantage of the fact that there are more than one of us to have separate eyes on each book. There's a lot of comic stores run by one person who has to do everything. But for Challengers, we would specifically do the full initial orders,
Yeah.
meaning back when it was just Diamond, you and I would each have gone through previews, circled the things that we wanted the other person to be aware of.
Right.
Not every Marvel DC comic, but, the back catalog stuff.
Yeah. What some stores do for initial orders when they have a large organization, multiple stores, multiple managers, multiple employees, is they kind of all sit around. They have a schedule where, once a month they get together with the new catalog and they go over it and they talk about...
They talk it out, yeah.
Like what books they're excited about, see if there's a consensus, see how much interest there is in certain things, to kind of, as an organization, decide not only what they're going to stock, but what they're going to promote, and what feedback individual employees, managers, owners are getting from their customers. Because not everyone's talking to everybody. So if someone's on the sales floor more often, they're hearing like, oh, everyone's excited about Fall of X. And other people are like, well, I'm not hearing that. Like, that's good to know. Like, we should order more Fall of X stuff. Also, Fall of X is really fun. I'm really enjoying it.
They're falling. They're falling so much.
But we at Challengers don't really do that. While Patrick and I will definitely talk about stuff that we're seeing in the catalogs, it's more to complain about what we're seeing than it is to be individually excited about
Sometimes
things.
on this very podcast.
So
What? Complaining?
What we'll try and
No.
do, like, since Patrick is doing the initial orders, I will go through the previous catalog, because it's more helpful on previews than anything else, as we'll get into, and go through the back of it, the non-Premier publishers, the non-FOC publishers, and circle specific stuff to say, I think we should be carrying this graphic novel, or I think less often, this comic series is worth carrying. A lot of the stuff in the back is just pointing out, of the many all-ages graphic novels or manga or whatever, like, these are the ones I think we should get, and the rest of them we can maybe skip. But that's not even like a hard, like, definitely order this, definitely don't order anything else. It's more just saying,
what do you
like,
think of this?
It's me saying, like, I think these are ones, but if you don't, I don't care.
Sometimes if it's a creator that we really like, but it's from a smaller publisher, Dell will circle the name. So I'm like, oh, it's that person who's doing that to make sure I don't
otherwise,
miss
if I
it.
circle the title, you'd be like, why? And then like, oh no, it's because it's this person.
It's never that hostile.
I assume this is how I'm seeing. Like, you're not to digress a little bit, because this will still be on topic. I know how arduous and demoralizing it is for you to do initial orders.
Demoralizing, I think, is the perfect word.
So I know I assume
wind
that
up
you're lashing
hating
out at
comics
anything
and
and everything.
myself.
Right, and I assume that also goes for me. Me leaving a note saying, like, please order this, when you're like, I hate all of this. I don't want to order anything else. Why is he asking me to order this? I feel like it's the knee-jerk is to be very, like, no.
It's the opposite.
Okay.
I actually appreciate it, and it makes me give a second look for a thing most of
Nice.
the time.
I'm glad to hear that.
And if I disagree, I don't order it.
Yeah, it's very easy. Like,
It's not, like you said, it's not a rule.
yeah, there's almost nothing that I would feel that passionately about and I would feel is necessary for us to carry that you wouldn't at least sort of feel like, no, I think that would sell. Like, our taste and our perspective is not so diametrically opposed. So basically, if it's ever a thing where you're like, I don't think so, I probably wasn't that crazy about it to begin with.
Yeah.
I was like, I think this could be good, but I'm not willing to, like, fight for it. If we didn't carry it, I don't think we're losing out. It's just a thing that I thought might be neat.
It's driving me crazy that Elektra figure, that Daredevil figure over there, has a giant Spider-Man logo on it.
Yeah,
I know it's from a Spider-Man wave,
classic
but
Spider-Man character, Electronaccio Daredevil.
it's just so ridiculous.
It's so
because
dumb.
the way
on a retro card,
the
too.
way the way
Why
I'm
is she in a retro card?
yeah, a retro card. What? The way I'm turned to face Dal is I'm looking beyond him to that figure. It's right in my
I
eye
left
line.
this in here to remind myself to open it, and then I forgot about it until we started recording.
Well, I mean, to remind yourself to open it. You're still reminded.
At some point.
It's still doing its job.
At some point. I like that design a whole lot. It's such a good figure.
Yeah.
Because they made sure that the little neckerchief goes all the way up.
Yeah.
Which is, I remember telling you that was crucial to me. Like,
Well, when you first saw the photos, it didn't have the neckerchief,
Right,
and you're like, I'm not buying that. It doesn't have the neckerchief.
right. Which I guess it's removable. I
And
don't
I'm
know.
like,
I don't
no,
like it.
Dal, it's there.
Yeah. And then I was like, now I need to get it. And then it turned out that was the figure everyone wanted, so I didn't get one until I found it at Target. We got 3 at the store I co-own, and I had to go, no, those go to other people. I will find one somewhere or not.
Isn't that, though, the job of the store owner?
Oh, so often.
Prioritizing everyone else's needs over yours?
So often. Even other employees. I was just
Yeah.
like, no, Gina should have this. She'd enjoy it more.
That's weird, though, because Gina pre-ordered it, like said she wanted it from the beginning.
Hmm?
So did I, and that's 2, and you said you wanted it, so that's... Anyway, so now, because there's so many different distributors, there's not catalogs for everything.
No.
There's no like Lunar has a
Image-
digital catalog.
Yeah, Image doesn't do a physical catalog anymore. They're listed in the Diamond Previews catalog in the back, very small pictures and very small print. But the actual Image catalog, the full 40-something page Image catalog, it's only digital.
But that is not a thing that you would go through and circle. You wouldn't
No.
you'd skip Image entirely. However,
Right.
the smaller publishers that Lunar carries, like your AWAs or your Vaults, those are ones we would seek input from the other person on. And
Usually,
so we don't have that. And now they have so many other smaller.
You would be surprised at the number of things that outright I would just say, I don't care if we carry this or
Now,
not.
for
Don't
sure.
care.
I'm not surprised with that at all.
Like, I never want us to be a store that's just like Marvel, DC, Image, but it's like most of the other stuff no one cares about. Like, occasionally there'll be a book that we can get really excited about. Patrick was very excited about The Madness, which we did pretty well with, I think.
Yeah, but also being excited
Ribbon
about
Queen we had to restock on. So, I mean, there's
what was
other
it?
things.
What was the
Ribbon Queen.
Yeah.
Um,
Click, click, boom.
right.
Wait, I'm seeing a pattern here.
Wait, that's Image.
Right, but we're just talking about books that I've recommended recently
Sure.
we need to restock.
But I specifically...
That's my takeaway.
It's true. But most of the other
Baby
stuff...
Bear's Bakery.
That's so good.
There you go.
We saw a lot of that. That was a good one.
Let me just delete this Scout Comics email.
Scout
outright.
Comics doesn't usually make the list. But yeah, it's the stuff like Scout Comics where maybe we carry it like for subscribers. Like we definitely, if a subscriber asks for it, sure, absolutely,
Yeah.
done. But for the shelf, it's like so many publishers. I'm like, I don't know that anyone beyond these 3 people who pre-ordered it are gonna care.
So there's less. I can't think of the word. Whenever agrees on something. Consensus. Less consensus on what to order because there's less ways for everyone to go over it before it's time to order without specifically sitting down, holding a meeting, and there's no time for that.
Right. Yeah.
So a lot of this stuff is, and now...
I think we talk sometimes about us trying to do like an episode of Contest of Challengers where we go through the catalog, but like we've done that before and almost all it becomes is like, I hate every publisher and I hate all of their instincts.
And the sound of flipping pages would be annoying for everybody because there's hundreds of pages.
We
to go
did an
through.
audio unboxing, so maybe we were just
Yeah, but
ahead of the curve.
that was just one thing.
Okay.
2 things, technically. 2 things we were happy to have. You don't just want to hear us go, let me just skip. What is this?
that would
okay.
just be Marvel previews.
There
I heard David Harper did a thing where it's basically like no one knows why Marvel is so boring now. Like I'm paraphrasing.
You heard
Yeah.
David Harper did a thing?
Well, yeah, the Beat had a report on it.
Were you not in the car on the phone with David Harper for that piece?
I don't know if that's the same thing or not because I didn't read the piece because I don't have a subscription like you do. I have the Beats reporting, which was not specific about individual stores that may or may not have been quoted.
You can go to sketch.com whenever you want on the store. My login should be saved.
Yeah.
But yeah, you were a part of that.
I was.
you were
I don't know if that
we
made
weren't-
its way into the
No,
reporting.
no. I mean, so
Either
When
my
David-
name or my
when David calls and
So-
asks for
background.
our thoughts on things, he's not quoting us.
I didn't think so. I mean, that it didn't feel like that at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if that conversation was in any way useful in forming a thesis for an article he may or may not have written.
It wasn't so much a thesis as it was a consensus of retailers had spoken.
Sure. But it is
Yeah.
like genuinely a thing is Marvel has a weird lack of heat on stuff that you'd think would be a no-brainer and a bunch of things coming out where it's like, I don't know the full picture of this. I can't understand your publishing plan
Yeah.
from these monthly catalogs where random stuff will just pop out. As opposed to
a
Dawn
quick-
of DC where it feels like, oh, there's someone steering this.
A quick pitch for Sketch.com. David does he's got a bunch of different categories he covers each week. He does his podcast where he interviews somebody in the industry.
Mostly Kyle Starks.
Creator,
Go on.
editor, what?
Mostly Kyle Starks, but go on.
That's fine. And Dan Johnson. Dan Johnson was last week. Emily Carroll was this week.
Ooh, nice.
He'll do a long-form deep dive where he'll go into crazy detail on a thing. He'll sometimes dust off an old article to revisit it. He'll do a list of 10 things in the industries that he likes or dislikes for the week, Like, he does all of these things every week.
Wow.
So because of the effort, and it's a one-man show. He does it all by himself. He is someone who now edits the podcast for him.
Okay.
But everything else he does on his own, so that's why it's behind a paywall.
Sure. Which makes sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So
Sure, go ahead.
I strongly recommend, if anybody's interested in anything in comics and you have a couple of bucks to spend it's billed quarterly. It's like $11 a quarter or something like that.
That's great.
David is a friend of the store, and he's a friend of mine personally. I pay for all of his stuff. I'm a patron for his podcast. I pay for his website.
Nice.
Yeah, so anyway. Going back to how we order is, it used to be as easy as I do initials, Dow does FOCs.
Mm-hmm.
Then when they started splitting it up and having different distributors, it was I do initials, Dow does FOCs, but I would do the DC FOCs.
Yeah.
So I was ordering and final ordering, cutting offing of DC. And then we started adding Molly Jane into the mix.
Mm-hmm.
And so I stopped doing DCs. I gave that up.
Yeah, lunar FOCs. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't even know how you guys split it up now.
Well, we at first when we were just trying to cross train Molly Jan on everything, we each kind of rotated around what we were doing so she would understand how each system worked in case she needed to pick one up for a week. But then we pretty quickly developed a routine of she would do Diamond FOCs, I would do Lunar and PRH FOCs, because Lunar FOCs on Sunday and PRH and Diamond FOC on Monday. So it was a thing where I could do Lunar in like half an hour, 45 minutes on Sunday, and then she would do Diamond, which takes like an hour 15. And then later in the day, I would do PRH, which is like maybe an hour.
And now Image will be on a separate day, even though it's lunar.
Yeah, so since I'm still doing Lunar and PRH, I'll be doing Lunar Sunday and then Lunar Monday, which is just Image, and then PRH on Monday.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah, and this is, I don't know if this is where you're heading with all this, but it's incredibly...
I can assume
it's
yes.
incredibly not fun, because every distributor has a different way of doing FOC stuff, and the end result, it's the same. Basically, it's a list of books, plug in a number up or down, or just a whole new number. There you go. Except that's not really how PRH does it. You've got like
let me jump in and back up for a second.
Sure.
When we were using everything through Diamond, when we were using RMH for point of sale and Comic Suite for subscription management, doing the FOCs was as easy as going to the FOC screen and it would pull you up the book.
Yeah, well, and this is the key thing. So Diamond has the retailer management side of the admin side, basically, of their website. If you go to diamondcomics.com, there's a lot of like information about comic books as a medium and as an industry. But if you are a retailer and you have an account, you log in, and that's where all the data is. That's where you find out what you've ordered, what your discount level is, what your shipments are, if you're reporting damages, if you need to do new-to-order stuff or reorders, blah, blah, blah. It's all done through the retailer portal. They have a page where you would put in initial orders. They have a page where you would put in FOCs. But if you were using their point-of-sale tools, RMH, Comic Suite, you're looped into their system, but everything you do is native to your specific store. Like you are logging into a server and then operating on your own PC rather than having to go to their website and interact with it that way, which is pretty cool. Like that was because what you'd be doing is you'd be pulling down the data that says, okay, this is everything that's on final order cutoff for this week. These are the titles. These are the prices. This is how many copies you've ordered. But it would also have access to, since it's on your PC, all of your sales data. So you'd be pulling down information about the FOC from Diamond's server, but from your own server, you'd be adding all of the sales for previous issues. So you'd be able to go through, and if you had X-Men 25 on FOC, you'd be able to see, okay, well, here's what we sold for X-Men 24 and 23 and 22 and all the different covers.
Here's what we sold. Here's what was for subscribers. Here's what...
It got nicely granular where you'd get all of this, like, an overall total that was sold, but, like, how many for subscribers, how many week 1 off the shelf, week 2 off the shelf, week 3 off the shelf, week 4 plus off the shelf.
And also, each cover was a subset of the issue.
Yeah. And then if you got more copies in, it would have that. So all of that data was very easy to navigate, and it made doing FOCs very fast, and you felt like you had everything. Even if there were notations about like, well, this is an incentive variant, this is a qualifier that you have to order X amount to get Y amount, all of that stuff was also in there. They even added a thing at a certain point because Marvel was doing this really frustrating scheme where it was like, if you order, like, again, let's say X-Men 25 had a thing where like, oh, you can get a higher discount on X-Men 25 if you order 120% of what you ordered for X-Men 22. But then as a retailer, you'd have to go back and find out, okay, well, how many copies by FOC did I order for X-Men 22? Because anything you ordered after that doesn't count for this qualifier. Right. And then do the math of like, okay, now what's 120% of that to make sure I'm hitting this level? And sometimes they'd have different things. If you order 120% of what you order for X-Men 22, you get 5 additional discount points. If you order 150%, you get an extra 10 discount points. And so all of this math was frustrating to retailers. And then Diamond went through and went, okay, we did a tool where we figured it out, where it would tell you this is what you need to order. You need to order 97 to hit this level. You need to order 108 to hit this level. And it's like, great. So now I can figure out if that's valuable or not to me. But thankfully, Marvel eventually completely got away from that. They don't do that crap anymore. And it's great.
Well, speaking of getting away from crap, we got away from that system.
We did.
We don't have the ability to do that anymore. And it's not like we just left. Because DC left Diamond.
Yeah.
And that opened the door for everyone else to do it since then. And because there's so many different distributors now, nobody has that kind of a system.
No. Well,
because nobody has that kind of data, and no one has all those products.
Yeah, Diamond's system was incredibly valuable if the majority of your comic sales, if not the entirety of your comic sales, went through Diamond. The more distributors you use, the less valuable Diamond's tools are because they're working off of other people's data. They don't have control over it anymore. And their ability, like, one of the most amazing things about having the Diamond system when Diamond was the only game in town was that when you wanted to place reorders, you're already looped into their servers. So you just upload it right from your point of sale. You do FOCs and initial orders right from your point of sale. Everything is just part of one gigantic organism, and it was very, very easy to use. But as the whole market separated and dispersed more, using Diamond was more frustrating because everything needed additional steps. If you wanted to do FOCs from another company, like you could kind of make it work, but it kind of didn't work. And then if you wanted to place reorders with another distributor, like it exported in a way where it used Diamond codes, which was pointless because only Diamond uses Diamond codes. Taking a list of books and having only Diamond codes and sending it to PRH is a great way for PRH to say,
no, thank you.
We don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Which is why we ended up looking for another system, and that's why we ended up with Managed Comics and Shopify, because it allowed us to feel like there was one overall kind of God-level view of all of these different distribution things, and everything worked together in a way that made it easier for us from when Comic Suite was kind of not working great. I don't know how it is these days. I don't know if anyone's having any good experience with the Comic Suite or RMH.
All I ever hear are complaints, but no one ever makes a post about how good things still are for it. So now the whole landscape is different, and all the processes are different and arduous.
Mm-hmm.
And
so much work all the time.
Incredibly frustrating. And while the data still exists, collating it into a point where you can feel confident in your ordering would take 5 times as long as it used to.
Oh, yeah.
To be able to to go in and look up each individual sales for each book, each cover, because each cover is a separate item now. It's not part of the same.
Yeah, I mean, this is the thing where I don't want to complain too much about it, because I know it's a work in progress. But yeah, one of the major things that we desperately need is a way to have essentially all of our sales data aggregated in a way that makes sense, and then also put right alongside the book that we're ordering in both initial order and FOCs. I know that that's being worked on, and I know it's very, very difficult, and it's definitely like the number one quality of life improvement we definitely need right now. Because, yeah, it's a lot of doing initial orders and FOCs is multiple tabs, for Managed Comics, for PRH, or whatever other distributor, and then individual tabs within those where PRH might need 2 or 3 different tabs because their FOC screen is only moving numbers up while their cart is moving numbers up and down. And then sometimes if you need to see more detail about something, you got to open that in a new tab.
The idea of trying to explain this to somebody who, let's say we hired someone new just to do ordering, I would just tell them not to do it.
Not order things.
Penguin Random House eventually started adding data for individual items. You can go to an item and it'll say, oh, you ordered 4 copies of this book.
Yeah.
It didn't used to do that.
No.
And it only tells you what you ordered after the fact. Once you have, does it have to have come out for it, or can
No.
it?
It's whatever you've placed an order for.
But but not. So if it's FOC'd, it's the little red circle. If it's still in the cart, I mean.
Right.
But then once it gets placed before it comes out, it'll still say the number at the top.
I don't think I'll say it if it's in the cart, but if the order's in place but the book hasn't shipped yet, that they will track that data. Which is usually very helpful, especially for Marvel, because frequently I'm FOCing issues of Marvel series where the first issue hasn't even come out yet. So I don't have any sales data to look at, and I don't remember what I ordered. And this is such a weird minor quality of life thing, but it was a thing that when we lost it, it's like, oh God, I didn't realize how much I needed that. When we were using Comic Suite and RMH, all of your data, what you've ordered, what you got in, what you sold, it was all in one place because you basically were placing orders within your system that went directly to Diamond. The problem now is that basically Shopify does not know what orders we've placed. So anytime we want to look at our data, unless you've actually physically received it, it doesn't exist as far as Shopify is concerned. And Managed Comics is kind of just using Shopify's data. So there's no record in our system internally of what we've ordered. You have to go to a vendor's site and say, okay, what did I order for this? When did I order it? So just checking specific things like, did we even order that? How many copies did we order? If someone asked for it right now in the store, will we have enough to give them one if it's after FOC? Because I know what we need and I know what they're asking for, but I don't know what we ordered already. So that's stuff that we used to have because it was all done internally in one system. And now because it's so dispersed, that's a thing that frequently trips me up. And I have to go hunting for something that before I would just go into like RMH and go, okay, well, we ordered this many. Here you go.
You just can't give somebody an easy answer anymore.
Yeah, it's just the difference between when you ordered stuff in RMH and Comic Suite, it automatically created an entry in your database for it. With the way Shopify Managed Comics works, it does not create an entry until you physically receive it. So in that space between when you've ordered it and when you receive it, the system has no idea. Like your internal system, your POS and subscription management installation does not know what you've ordered. It knows what you need for subscribers. It has no idea what you've ordered.
Well,
minor thing.
Now we're at the point, like the meat of this episode, the revelation, the point that I wanted to make when we first started this.
Yeah.
This is all the information that was needed before we could start telling this.
Oh, okay. We told that story so we could tell this story.
Well, I mean, this is a change to the ending of the story.
Okay.
We are going to be changing the way we do some of our orders for the first time.
Are we really?
Yeah. I can never tell when you inflect like that if you're just moving the conversation along or if you don't know what I'm going to say.
No, the first one.
I got it that time, but
it was performative.
It's good. That's why it's a good performance, because I'm always unsure.
Tell me more.
We are no longer going to do initial orders for anything through Penguin Random House.
Yes.
And that has always been an option. And I know many, many retailers who just don't do. If a publisher is on final order cutoffs, they just won't place initial orders because it's double the work.
Yeah, and like we talked about, the double the work was the bonus for us, was 2 eyes on it.
Yeah.
It was basically, one person got to say, I think we ordered this many, and then the second person got to say, yes or no.
But the way we've been doing things since we switched over with Managed Comics, because there's no specific initial ordering tool, we've just been uploading forms that have all of our subscriber information on it, all of our subscriber numbers, as a backup, as a fail-safe, as a safety net, just in case something happens. At least the people that would ask for these books by initial orders get them. So it was always just a thing like, well, no matter what, we're okay.
Yeah, it just felt like best practice is to have a safety net.
The number of times we see on a retailer message board where someone's like, I missed this, I forgot this, I didn't order this, I just need, 20 copies for subs. Now, that wouldn't help us when people order it leading, like, from initials to FOCs. If we get, 5 more subscribers, that wouldn't help us.
No.
But we'd have the majority of people covered, and that's just a safety net that we were comfortable with. Specifically, I was comfortable with that.
Sure.
But the FOC process through Penguin Random House is so ridiculous, time-consuming, and wasted effort that it actually hinders us to place initial orders.
Yeah, the Penguin Random House FOCs are by far the worst that I deal with in my job. Lunar, especially with Managed Comics, pretty straightforward. You download a CSV file, you upload it to Managed Comics. Managed Comics has, we're going to have one tab where it's going to be doing the FOCs and another tab that's order history. Again, it'd be nice if those were the same, but I know that that's in the works. And then it's just a process of going down and moving numbers up or down, exporting another CSV file, sending that to Lunar, and then that's the new Lunar numbers. You're done. With Penguin Random House, if you upload numbers to them, all you're doing is adding to what's ever in the cart. So if we had from Lunar...
Do you want to quickly explain the cart?
Sure. Well, I was going to explain kind of like with Lunar when we're uploading numbers, because you're basically just looking at the screen where it says FOC edits. Here's the list of all the books. Here's the number of copies that you currently have on order. So if we were ordering for Batman or Catwoman 38, if we had 60 that were already on initial order, and then on FOCs we're like, we want 40 of that. If we upload 40 as the number, it changes to 40. In PRH, if you say we have 60 copies of X-Men 26 on order, but we want 40, and you upload 40, now you're getting 100. You cannot upload a new number. You have to go to how PRH does it, which is there's just a series of FOC carts. Most other publishers, they're only really going to show you this week's FOC because this week's FOC is the only one that's locked. Everything else, books can move around.
Yeah.
FOCs change based on when a book is being printed because it's kind of, I don't think we mentioned this, but the FOC idea was a publisher will allow you to change your numbers right up until the final order cutoff, and it's called that because after that point, literally the next day in most cases, they're taking those order totals that they've gotten from every retailer, and that's what they're printing. They don't have to guess what extra amounts might come in on orders after initial orders because they're telling you, no, after this point, maybe we have a tiny amount of extra for any damages or shortages that might occur. And maybe a publisher might decide to do an overprint to keep a book in stock for a while. But almost always now that's the amount we're printing because that's the amount you asked for. And then we're done. And if you guys need more, maybe we do a reprint. Maybe we do a second print with a new cover and a 1 in 25 variant.
Now, there are instances where publishers will go to press before they have the final numbers and just guess.
Yes.
Or they'll need 2 extra months because it's a foil cover or whatever.
Exactly. Yeah, and those treatments, when there's a gatefold or a foil or some other thing, DC will always say we're for the ultraviolet ink covers that they were doing for Night Terrors as a variant, those had a special printing process, so those needed extra printing time. So we would do our FOC numbers for that one cover, and then the next week we would do the orders for every other cover. And they've done that a few times for things like gatefolds and stuff like that.
Or there have been times where an issue of Amazing Spider-Man is so thick, you have to order issue 9 before you order issue 8.
Yeah, super fun. And as always, plenty of times where you're ordering issues 2 or onward.
Without having a first issue on the stands to gauge any interest at
I
all.
had complained this last week that I hated having to order the Ghost Rider Wolverine Weapons of Vengeance Omega 2 days before Ghost Rider Wolverine Weapons of Vengeance Alpha hit the shelves. So it's like, what am I going to need for that? I have no idea. I don't know how the Alpha is going to sell, let alone parts 2 and 3. So is there going to be a ton of interest in part 4? No interest? I'm guessing. It doesn't matter. But anyway, so yeah, the PRH FOC ordering process is so stupid and needs so many different tabs open that it would be easier for us if we didn't even put initial orders in, because then whatever numbers we upload on FOC, which again, let's say we needed 40 copies of something, well, 0's in the system, so if you upload 40, 40 is what you're going to get. So putting those numbers in a month ago, which takes Patrick extra time to have to figure out and upload and put in, was adding like a lot of extra time every week to me. And the joke of this is that even as you're saying, like, well, we're not going to be doing this anymore. Well, we're not doing it with this catalog.
Right.
I got like 8 weeks of FOCs that I'm, at least that I'm going to be seeing that. Like, it will take a while before we run out of things that we've FOC'd. There will be graphic novels for a while that are still being, like, that already have initial orders in the system, even though we're not doing that anymore.
It's the changing of the guard. We've never...
It's weird.
Not
Feels
done
dangerous.
initials. Yeah. But like I said, so many other retailers do it. It's a change moving forward. This ties into everything we've been talking about this episode, except for Becca's artwork. Sorry, Becca.
Oops.
Oni's Dwellings, #1.
Yes.
That is an example of, a book they went to press early and misjudged how many would be necessary, so retailers got allocated. B, it's an example of a book that Dow's like, hey, check this out. And Patrick saying, no thanks, and passing.
Yeah, I'm a Jay Stevens fan from back in the day. Not like I keep up with his stuff anymore, but I remember really enjoying a lot of his the 90s era stuff. But when you were like, I don't see an audience for it, and it's an expensive book, I'm like, all right, that's fine.
That's my attitude on a lot of those things. Like, I don't see an audience. Like, yeah, these people were big. Look at Frank Miller Presents as a whole.
I'd rather not if I don't have to.
We can't. It doesn't do anything for us.
Yeah,
even my longtime friend and patron Robert Burns, who loved Ronin Volume 1, after 2 issues of Ronin Book 2, he's like, I can't. Can you take me off of it?
Yeah, well, a sequel to Ronin with Dan DiDio's favorite artist is not necessarily what everyone was expecting when they heard Frank Miller's doing a sequel to Ronin. Like, yeah, not really.
Actually, I heard the art was the only redeeming thing about it.
It's sad. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of artists that I was a huge fan of when I was a lot younger, and I don't necessarily order based on that. But Dwellings was one where I'm like, I don't know, it's kind of a horror thing, and it looks like it could be kind of fun. But again, it wasn't anything that I was so passionate about. I'm like, we're definitely getting that. It was more like, eh.
And keep in mind, we definitely ordered anybody who had pre-orders for it.
Oh yeah, we had a few people who ordered specific covers, and they got theirs. We weren't allocated on those.
But if we had more people pre-order, I would have been like, well, maybe, but
sure. No.
And also, we would have been allocated, so who cares?
Yeah, there you go.
So
there would have been a whole episode of us complaining about that, because it's just the whole point of FOCs is like, why would you go to press beforehand? Just move the FOC date up. Like, if it's going to take you 8 weeks to print it, do the FOCs 9 weeks before the book comes out. Don't do it 3 weeks before, like you're stuck in that. Like, no.
But they did a 27% overprint to try to meet demand. And they didn't, because so many orders came in the last week.
Shouldn't have needed to if they would have done the FOC before they printed the book. This is just like publishing 101 stuff, man.
Well, moving on to a different aspect of how we order specific things, we are also making changes to how we order supplies.
Oh, yeah?
When we first opened, we opened an account with Southern Hobby because they have a warehouse in Elk Grove Village. Maybe it was Bloomingdale by that, but anyway. Not Elk Grove Village, in Bloomingdale. Yeah, I don't know. Elk Grove Village is where I get the books, the comic books.
Glendale Heights?
Somewhere.
Hoffman Estates?
Glendale Heights. You had to go to the Now Arena, the Sears Center, the Now Arena, to get your books. So they're in the suburbs, and they would do deliveries.
Yeah.
They would bring they bring items, gaming supplies.
They had a route, they had a van driver, and you would tell them on the day before, Wednesday, what you need, and if they had it, they'd toss it in the van along with your pre-orders. And Thursday, they would just drop it off.
Yeah, depending on what day your route fell on.
It was great because if you were like, I only need like 2 packs of Golden Age bags, they would just toss 2 packs in. You didn't have to order by the case. You get whatever you want.
And you can still order that way now. Then they shifted to every 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Fine.
Right.
We're never that far out of things. It's only a problem when they're out of things.
Yeah,
and we can't get.
We definitely had to start thinking about stocking stuff a little bit more. We've never had like a huge back room where we could store a ton of stuff, so we were generally like, we could get like another case of boards beyond what we have, but that's kind of about all we can have because there's nowhere else to put it. But we had to start thinking about it in terms of, instead of what are we going to sell in the next 24 hours that we might need to order or need to have for the next 7 days, instead it was like the next 2 weeks. And if they were out of stuff, like maybe longer, like maybe we need to be thinking about a month's worth of supplies.
And then the pandemic hit. And
wait, what?
It's a different podcast.
Oh, shit.
It's the episode where Christopher Daniels was trying to get people to buy reverse mortgages, I believe.
Oh, sure.
So they stopped all deliveries. And everything was being shipped out for the pandemic. Fine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right?
It makes sense.
It's expensive to ship out boards. Boards are heavy. But...
Well, and it's something that's a low-cost item. Like, supplies are the worst thing to get shipped out because they're not expensive, but they can be very expensive to ship because they're very heavy and very dense.
Yeah.
So, like, a case of boards that we might sell collectively for like $130 might end up costing us a good chunk of change to ship that case out because that case is like 30, 40 pounds. It's very heavy.
So we've started picking up because they're in the suburbs. You and I used to go out there on our one collective day off.
Right, Thursdays,
we'd make a trip of it, head out there. We had a couple Instagram posts like, here is my then van filled to the brim with cases of boxes.
That's where I learned about Raising Cane's.
That's right.
It changed my life.
It did, actually.
It did. It's slowly killing me.
So now, it's killing you faster than it was before.
No.
I mean, that's how it changed your life. It sped up your demise.
Oh, no.
So now I try to target it so I can go Tuesdays, because we get so little from Diamond that my car's not all that full. But I mean, we still get like...
Do you remember when you had to like think about what car you were going to own because of how much stuff you knew you had to get from Diamond? And now it's like, we are on the verge of being like, just ship it out UPS. It's not worth driving out for.
Strap it to the back of my motorcycle. It'll be fine.
Maybe. Carry it back.
So we would go out there, and I would, since the pandemic, we realized we needed to start stocking up. When things were gone out of print for a while or unavailable, when you could source bags or boards or whatever, you hoard them.
Yeah, I mean, there was a plastic shortage for a while, and that meant that like nobody knew where they could get bags. That was a retailer thing of like, who are you getting bags from? Who is selling them? Who even has them in stock? How much do they cost? And you spent a lot of time trying to find somebody that we could source bags from.
Yeah, and we made a couple of mistakes where we ordered from some companies and we're not pleased with the quality.
Yeah.
There's one specific... text from Kyle Starks, but I didn't get a chance to look what it said.
Is it that he's on a David Harper podcast right now?
One specific brand, Bags Unlimited, I think it was, that was not what we were hoping for.
Oh, yeah.
But we eventually, got through them. Now we have a bag company we're very, very happy with. They're not close, they're not local, but... And it's FedExed out. Mm-hmm. But they charge us what FedEx charges them, so it's reasonable.
Yeah.
It's not like a massive handling fee or anything.
Right.
And we really like their bags, the different sizes, the quality, and we love their boxes.
Yeah.
But we still get boards, and all of our gaming, our Magic cards and our Pokemon cards, and
Hasbro stuff currently.
Yeah, through Southern Hobby. Southern Hobby is undergoing a structural change in how they get supplies, and they have 4 or 5 warehouses across the country.
Yeah.
So now they're going to have a central supply warehouse for us, for boards, and it's not Chicago.
Nope.
So if we keep getting boards from Southern Hobby, they're going to have to get shipped.
Yep.
And over the years we've watched, and I just want to say, like, we still like Southern Hobby, and we still, our sales rep Garrett is great.
Yeah, great guy.
And this is like, sorry, Diamond, everyone's leaving you.
Yeah.
We've watched all of the benefits of Southern Hobby slowly chip away.
Yeah, it's a thing that until this last one, we really didn't think about it. And then once you look back to, like, what was it like 6 years ago? It's like, oh God, it's changed so much.
One of the things is they had the delivery fee.
Right.
Was the flat fee. Then the fee went up by half. Fine. But then when they stopped delivering, they kept that fee, but it became a handling fee.
Yep.
And now we're still charged a handling fee
Yep.
for every shipment.
Yeah.
And that's always a thing that's kind of bugged me, because I know, like, it's shipping and handling. We don't charge handling fees. We do a ton of mail
I don't
order.
know what a handling fee is.
We don't-
It just feels weird to me.
Like, you're charging extra because you have to box it up or whatever. But I mean, boxing up is part of it.
Yeah, that's part of your job.
And
right?
also, for the longest time,
that's part of the profit that you're
there's-
taking off of this. Should
there's
pay for that.
companies that charge extra because you use a credit card,
It's very strange.
which I've always hated that. Like, a processing fee. Paying a processing fee with a credit card is also part of the game. We mentioned that numerous times. That's what we're talking about here. But then when you go to the people you're dealing with and saying, okay, well, I don't want to pay with a credit card anymore. I want to give you a check. How do I do that? Well, that's not going to work for us. Like, you can't charge me a penalty for using a card, then not let me not use a card.
Yeah.
Now, that's not Southern Hobby per se, because that eventually got changed. The way we pay them is now a direct bank account withdrawal.
Okay.
So it's not a check. It's an easier process. But yeah, so we are taking a lot of our supply business away.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate, but it really is just a matter of dollars and cents. And on top of that, like, we cannot run our business entirely off of loyalty. Like, I wish we could, but there's a point where we have to think about it like a business. And that means that we have to look at all of the various suppliers and figure out right now in 2023 which is the best one for us.
There was a point where Southern Hobby lost BCW.
Yes.
They were selling BCW supplies, BCW boxes. BCW has drawer boxes. We love those.
Oh, yeah.
But they lost BCW as a client. So then they started changing, well, here's the boxes we have now. And I don't like those boxes much, but we stayed with those boxes for a long time because that's what Southern Hobby had.
Right.
And, like, we're using who they, like, here's who we have, so we ordered from them. We didn't go to BCW when we could. We could hit their minimums easy if we do orders with Mark Tower,
Right.
and split costs that way. But we're like, no, we're still going to stick with Southern Hobby.
Right.
But again, as things chip away little by little,
Yeah. A lot of the benefits that kept us with Southern Hobby for so long have now kind of changed because of, the current landscape financially.
yeah, and I'm sure that they don't want to make these decisions either. If you look at things we used to do versus things we don't do, or if you look at, excuse me, if you look at our bags and board prices from the time we opened to into the pandemic, they never changed.
No.
Now they've gone up like 3-4 times since then because we have no choice.
Viz has raised the price on their graphic novels by $2.
Yeah, the standard Viz graphic novel price is now $11.99. So, I get it. I know they have to do it, but as Dal said, we can't rely on loyalty alone. We're not cutting them out entirely.
No.
We're going to use them for what we still can.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is basically just having to be kind of clear-eyed about what do they do that other places don't do better, that no one else can account for. Like, we've never looked for any place else that we would get, like, Magic or Pokemon or Yu-Gi-Oh! From. We like the way that Southern Hobby does it. They've been really reliable. The price has been good. The selection has been good. Garrett's been really good about making sure that we're aware of all the variations that come out, because it's nothing that Patrick or I personally cares about. So we're not usually very dialed in on like what is the hot set or how does this thing differ from this other thing. So that stuff, yeah, they're still going to get our business for that. But when it comes to supplies, we found other supply places, and the prices make more sense to us, and the availability might be better. These are things that have to weigh in favor of other places.
I remember a very long time ago, as a family, we always used Farmers Insurance. I think it was Farmers. And we had one agent the whole time. And when I started driving, or when I had to pay for insurance myself, I used the same agent. Mm-hmm. And like none of us in the family looked for anybody else because we already had one.
Right.
But I remember my dad was going to switch because their prices went up by a lot. Mm-hmm. And he found another, it's like Farmers or State Farm, or like Prudential, whatever. They're all reputable firms, but if Farmers was charging so much more, my dad's like, I got to change.
Right.
And I remember his agent being so upset and saying, well, what about like the last 20 years of my service to you? Mm-hmm. It's like, you can't, so we should pay extra?
Yeah.
Like the prices are going up and, excuse me, I'm starting to lose my voice here. And I understand from his point of view, and he's not the one setting the prices, but at the same time, the prices were going up, and it wasn't like, $2 or $3 a month. It was a considerable jump.
Right, and I mean, this is going to maybe sound crass, but it's a personal relationship that grew out of a financial transaction.
Yeah.
This wasn't your longtime friend that you then went to and started getting your insurance from. This is someone who you got your insurance from, and eventually you did that for long enough where now there's a bit of a friendship. But the friendship was always an additional thing tacked onto the more important and primary financial relationship. And eventually when that changes, there's only so long that you, as the person losing money on this scenario, can keep losing money.
Yep.
How long do you want to have a worse deal? Just out of guilt or whatever? This gets back to the thing that we always say when people are thinking about leaving a store for another store is you don't owe that store anything more than what you've already bought from them. If the situation
changes...
Except
for the things you pre-ordered.
You pre-ordered, it's true.
We did this just last week.
I count those as things you've already paid for, even if you haven't technically paid for them yet. But it's that you... I like our customers. I like the interactions with our customers.
All of them?
Sure. But the thing is, they're our customers. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
That's still how this all started, and how it should always be in the top of my brain is not taking for granted the fact that they have to be getting what they originally wanted out of this, or I'm not doing my job. It shouldn't have to be a thing of well, I didn't pull your books, but we're friends, so who cares? No. You came to the store because you were a comics fan and you wanted comics and you were going to buy them from us. I have to make sure all of that is happening for you, or I'm not fulfilling my end of the bargain. And by the same token, if you ever feel like that's not happening for you, then it doesn't matter what friendship we have or whatever. Yeah. And that goes the same way up the ladder for us, where we've left Diamond for Lunar and PRH. We've left Diamond for Shopify and Managed Comics. Those relationships...
We left Managed Comics for Comic Shop Assist. Oh,
no.
Whoops. Oh, no.
I was going to say, those relationships that we have now, those could change at some point. Nothing's forever. Brian's a great guy. Managed Comics is great. Nico at Penguin Random House is great. Lunar's been good to us. But all of those things are very contingent on, is this still working out in our favor? In the sense of are we getting the bare minimum that we're expecting from this business relationship? If we are, great, you got our business. If we're not, there's only so long that can happen before we have to say we have to look for a different business relationship.
And that being said, if you're a customer who's actually a friend of ours and you decide you need to stop shopping at the store, you will be dead to us.
Yeah, Patrick holds grudges. I won't care a whole lot, but
you wouldn't have considered them a friend anyway.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a different thing.
So, speaking of customers first, friends later, I would like to end this episode of Contest of Challengers, a comics industry business podcast from Challengers Comics and Conversation in Chicago, with a plug for a current ongoing Kickstarter.
Wait, which is it, current or ongoing?
Oh, I guess it's going on now. It's not ongoing. It's going on.
Okay.
It's active right now for Evie and the Helsings #2 by Steve Bryant and Don Cardenas. Both people that we've done events with at the store.
Recently?
Yeah, last week. Don was someone who was shopping with us close to the very beginning.
Yeah.
And Don and I have done a bunch of musical projects on the side together. All of them have come about because he asked me to be part of it.
Aw.
And I remember when we did Challenger Olympics back in 2010,
Yeah.
his special skill was playing the bass. Now this dude plays every instrument amazingly, and
That's great.
we've done a couple of covers that he's released on his channels. We did a cover that came out really well with Leanna Kangas and her husband, and it's never come out, but I still listen to it occasionally. I love it. And other things in the work. But anyway, Evie and the Helsings
Anywho.
2, it's about a musician who's in the Van Helsing lineage, but rather than be a vampire hunter, she just wants to rock out in her band. But sometimes the things that go bump in the night don't let you ignore them. That's not their tagline. I just threw that in there.
Okay.
They had a very successful first issue Kickstarter. Issue 2 is up now. But Don asked me if I wanted to ink a cover for issue 2. And it's true, I used to dabble in inking in comics 25 years or so ago. And I have a body of work behind me. But I haven't inked in a very long time. But Don asked me if I wanted to work on this cover. And it's going to be a foil cover. So I said yes. And I did it and turned it in. I had a lot of fun. And I really appreciate them asking me to be part of it. I think it'll be the E cover when it's all said and done. And it's a upside down reflection cover, which I think would work well in foil. But that was super fun. But if you go to Kickstarter.com and look up Evie and the Helsings, you'll find it right away. So when they were at the store signing last Saturday, I was so distracted by so many things going on that I literally didn't get any copies of #1 for Challengers, which I definitely need to rectify that.
Whoops.
Yeah. So the good news is he's got to come pick up that original page, because somebody in the Kickstarter will get to own that page.
Wow.
And I did. Technology is great. Like when I was inking back in the day, it's when they first started using blue line printed out on board to be able to do things, so you didn't have to meet up with your artist. And when I was working for Boom, I was just getting digital files, which Marshall Dillon, who was a letterer from Devil's Due and still a letterer in the industry,
Sure.
showed me the process to converting things to blue line, which was way more of a task back then. Now it's super easy.
Yeah.
So you just turn the pencils from dark gray to blue, print it out on a sheet of illustration board, and ink over it. And then when you scan it, you can either you use blue because it's a specific non-photo blue, so it wouldn't photocopy. But when you scan it, it still scans. You just drop the blue out and it's gone. There's no erasing. There's no. But now, I did this one traditionally. It was pencils on a board, and I was like, wait, I don't have files. I wanted to practice first because I'm rusty. But every single mistake I made, my attitude was, I'll fix it in the edit. And it's true.
Photoshop.
I had to install scanning software because the flatbed scanner I used to use, a Logitech, was great. It was 12 by 18, which is beautiful, and it's so inexpensive and such a high quality. But they stopped updating the drivers.
Oh no.
So it hasn't been it didn't. I haven't had it in 11, 12 years.
Wow. Okay.
My printer at home is just a printer we replaced from the store. So I had to find the scanning utility and set that all up last week in anticipation. So even when I had to scan this in, I still had to do it in pieces and put it back together like I had to in the old days. And it always gets a little bit blurry in the seam because it has to, it's not resting flat on the bed. It goes over the lip.
Sure.
But anyway, it's putting that back together and cleaning everything up digitally. I'm like, man, this eliminates all manner of sins.
Yeah.
It's not as quick as
nice.
just like undoing, but there's a lot of like straight lines and things that I did, but I'm like, nope, I'm going to erase all those on the computer and put them all back in. And I used the computer as well to fill in a lot of the solid black areas.
Oh, cool.
But I'm like, well, somebody's getting this full page as a reward tier, so I went in and hand-filled everything, but with a little bit less care than I would have taken, knowing it was for publication. Because they got, I turned it in, it was accepted, so moved on.
Yep.
Anyway, Eevee and the Helsings, it was super fun to do it. My eyesight is way worse than it used to be when I inked, and I don't have... I need better reading glasses so I could get like real, because I like to get real close to the page.
Sure.
But I had to do it from like back here
Yeah.
at a distance. And that's it. We basically had 4 topics, but 2 of them were very brief. But we still did like an hour and 15 minutes.
Yay!
You know what, Dal? You're welcome. Thanks for listening.
And keep reading comics.
This has been Contest of Challengers. Thanks for listening. Keep reading comics. Challengers is located at 1845 Northwestern Avenue in the Bucktown neighborhood of Chicago. 773-278-0155. Keep up to date with new releases and events at challengerscomics.com. And help fund this podcast at patreon.com/challengers.